בהעלותך from Chile Gimel, Tavshin Tes. Baha'alotcha Haneros, Amul Pnei HaNeder, Yidur Shivas Haneros. Says in the pasuk that Aaron HaKohen is told when you light the candles towards the face of the menorah, the 7 candles should shine. So this Maamar the Rabbi gave out was Magia for Tes Vav Sivan, the day of the Frierdiker Rebbe's arrest, leading up to Yud Beis Gimel Tammuz. So he says the Frierdiker Rebbe in a Maamar is medayik in this Maamar. Shebetchila Eimer Baha'alotcha Haneros Neder Stam ve'eina maskeres misparim. At the beginning of the pasuk, it just says Baha'alotcha Haneros. When you elevate the candles, it doesn't say how many. L'achri Eimer Yidur Shivas Haneros, and after that it switches and says, "Let the 7 candles shine towards the face of the menorah." So why at the beginning of the pasuk it doesn't say a number, and later in the pasuk it says a number, 7 candles? And you also have to understand that it says towards the face of the menorah the 7 candles should shine. The Pnei HaMenorah, the face of the menorah, is the middle of the 7 branches, which means it's one of the 7 candles. So you don't have 7 candles shining towards the face of the menorah. It should have said towards the face of the menorah the 6 candles should shine, because there's only 6 candles facing towards the middle of the menorah. The basic explanation is that the candles about which it's saying when you elevate, when you light the candles, and the candles at the end of the pasuk where it says the 7 candles should shine, are 2 separate concepts. The beginning of the pasuk when it says that's going on plain candles without a number. That's going on the neshamas of that are called neder. As the pasuk says that the neshama of a person is the Eibishter's candle. Why is it called a candle? Just like a candle, the nature of a candle is that the flame goes up above and tries to leave the candle behind, tries to be re-included in its original source. In the element of fire, the general element of fire that's under the galgal, under the constant, the cycle of the moon. So too the neshama has within it the same nature. It has a nature of ratzai, that it wants to run, it wants to leave, it wants to go up above to be included in the original source from which it was taken. But this is the nature of a neshama. But in neshamas of bia, sometimes this nature that it has, that it wants to run away from here and from the guf, from the nefesh habahamis, and to be re-included in its source, that nature is concealed. So what's the aved of Aaron? To kindle the flames. What does that mean? To awaken and to reveal this nature of ratzai, this nature of elevation that the soul has. That's the meaning of when you elevate, when you kindle the candles. In other words, when you elevate the candles, that you take the neshamis and have aliyah shaban, you elevate them to ensure that this nature that they have to want to be elevated, to want to go up above, should be revealed. So that's the beginning of the pasuk. The beginning of the pasuk Baha'alotcha Haneros, when it doesn't say a number that's going on the neshamis, they're being elevated. In other words, revealing the nature that they have to want to be elevated back to their source. Then at the end of the pasuk, when it says "Let the 7 candles shine," that's not going on the neshamis. That's going on the ma'eres, on the sources of light that exist in the firmament in the heavens. Like it says in the Medrash, that the Mishkan is equal to the entire world. Everything that happened in the creation of the world, something similar existed in the Mishkan as well. The menorah that was there in the Mishkan is similar to when the Eibishter said by creation, "Let there be a source of light in the firmament in the heavens." Why does it say that let the 7 candles shine. Even though when it says by creation, let there be sources of light, it says that in Eibishter made two sources of light, the sun and the moon. So why is it referring to seven? That's because it refers to two, because the sun and the moon are the primary sources of light. But specifically, there's seven sources of light, right? There's seven luminaries. What does that mean that there's seven luminaries? I don't know, but it so happens to be that if you look up how many heavenly bodies are visible to the naked eye without telescopes, there's seven. That's one of the theories why there's 7 days of the week. For those who don't like the idea of the 7 days of creation, is because they would be able to see in ancient times the sun and the moon and 5 of the 10 planets. So if that's the case, there's 7 ma'eres, there's 7 sources of light that are visible to the eye, besides the stars that are visible to the eye in the heavens. In any event, so he says this. So the second half of the pasuk, when it says that the 7 candles should shine, that's a reference to the 7 ma'eres, the 7 sources of light in the heavens that are being achieved because the menorah, when you light the menorah, that's similar to the sources of light that exist, the luminaries that exist in the heavens. So that's the meaning of the pasuk, that when you elevate, that when you light the candles, which we said a candle stam, which is going on the shamis, then the 7 candles will shine. Through the Aved of Aaron, that he's elevating the candles. In other words, he's achieving shaneshamis, that the neshamis that are here in Bria Yitzira and Asiya, that normally would be concealed, their nature to be drawn to godliness, but he's revealing that should be revealed within them. Al Yidei Zeh, through Aaron, doing that through the neshamas shining with their teva of ratzai. Ya'iru shivas haneres, then the 7 luminaries will shine. Shenasa tesis erba ma'imri himayris, that there's an extra light being added to the Eibishter statement that in creation, that let there be sources of light. Al derech Sarah yisif al hameres, like it says in the Medrash that Sarah added to the luminaries, to the sources of light in the heavens through her light. Similarly, when Aaron reveals within each neshama the tava to be drawn upwards, that reveals a greater light in the ma'eres, in the 7 neres. Okay, so the Kitzur of Eis Aleph, Ba'aleisches Haneros, he has several questions. Why first it doesn't say a number, then it does, and what does it mean that the 7 candles should shine toward the face of the menorah? There's only 6 towards the face of the menorah. So he answered that Ba'aleisches Haneros, Neres Tam, is going on, that Aaron is the one who reveals within the neshamas the way they are in Bia, that the nature of Ratzei that they have within them is concealed. Aaron reveals that, and Al Mul Pnei HaMenorah Yirish Shivas Haneros is a result of that Aveda. Then the 7 luminaries have an extra light. There's extra light being brought into the very nature of creation. But since practically speaking, in the simple sense, where Ba'aleis Chesaneid is going on, and Neshamis is going on the candles of the Menorah, if that's the case, it's understood. Why B'Pnimius does it refer to the Neshamis, not to the Menorah? Is Ke'aneris the Neshamis, Ema Pnimius the Menorah? Because the truth is that the candles that we referred to earlier, that every neshama is a candle, that's really the panemius of the candles of the menorah. The nice of Lazesh neshama same neiris bechlal, in addition to the fact that neiravai nishmas adam, that in general neshamas are referred to as candles, same neiris amenorah, they're also specifically the candles of the menorah. And the menorah includes all of the neshamas of the Jewish people. So if that's the case, then the fact that the menorah had 7 different candles is why, because the neiris, the candles of the neshamas, are divided into 7 categories. But if that's the case, then we're bringing back the question. We have to understand, why is the pasuk changing? If that's the case, then we have back our question. Because if in the beginning of the pasuk, when it talks about the neshamas, really it's also 7 candles, because Because neshamas are divided into 7 categories. If that's the case, then why does the pasuk start off by saying stam nedes, and when it's talking about neshamas, and later it switches to the 7 nedes, to the seven candles of the menorah, when it's talking about the ma'ires, the luminaries in the world. So to understand why it switches, why it still talks about Neder Stam and only then talks about 7 candles and doesn't use 7 candles to refer to the candles of the neshamas. Yuvan Zalpi Mashkas Melukat Torah will understand this based on what it says in Melukat Torah. Shezayin Haneros the menorah him zayin sugi b'nei Yisrael b'avidas Hashem, that the 7 candles of the menorah are actually 7 different categories of Yidden in their divine service. Yesh Eved Ma'ava Mashach K'mayim Chesed V'yesh Ma'ava Krish V'yesh Gvura Chulu. The Alter Rebbe explains that there is a person who serves the Eibishter out of love, but a love that's like drawn like water. In other words, that's Chesed. Then there's another one who serves the Eibishter with a love that's like a fiery flame. That's Gvura V'yesh, and so on. Each of the other 7 midas. V'yesh Leimar. Now, if it's fine, we understand that there's 7 different types of Avodas Hashem, but why does that mean that there's 7 different categories of neshamas? It's not just a different way of serving the Eibishter, but it's actually a different category of neshama. Says the Rebbe, the fact that these 7 categories, the difference between them is only in the way they're serving, the way they're doing the Aveda. Nonetheless, it's called 7 different candles. That means it's a 7 mizesh neshama kruyaner mashma shem zayin sugi neshama. The fact that the neshama is called a candle, that means if there's 7 candles, it's not just 7 types of Aveda, it's 7 categories of souls. He says that makes sense, because since I was created only to serve my master, especially according to the Gersa that says I wasn't created except for to serve my master, that means that if there's a difference in the way in which I'm serving the Eibishter, that's not just a difference in the way I'm doing my Aveda, that's a difference in my Etzem Metzius. It's a separate category of Neshama altogether. So, however, says the Rebbe, if we're saying that the 7 categories of neshama are because of the 7 types of Aveda, because the reason why I exist is in order to serve the Eibishter, but that will mean that these 7 levels of neshamas is only up to the level of Bia. Why? Because it's explained elsewhere in the diuk that Chazal say I was created to serve my master. Ani nivresi l'shamish kaini. The zeshen yani shaladam neshama l'shamish kaini ubenegel lebriyase. Yiridas neshama lebria. Says it's explained in Chassidus elsewhere that the fact that ani nivresi l'shamish kaini, this that I was created just for my avodas Hashem, that's only within the context of Bria. In other words, once the neshama comes down to the level of Bria, Avol neshama atzma k'vayshi b'b'chinas tahirahi, but the neshama itself, the way it's the level of tahirahi, in other words, the way it's in Atzilus, l'mayla b'b'chinas atabarasa, where it's beyond the level of you created it. Kivan shi chelak elakam yimal mamish, over there, the neshama isn't just for its avodas Hashem. Why? Because the neshama, the level of Atzilus, is a chelak alekami mal mamish. It's a part of the Eibishter literally. And if it's a part of the Eibishter literally, you can't say that it exists for any purpose. Not even l'shamish eskaini. Eino emsay le'zein acher, gam le'lein l'shamish eskaina. V'atach l'suba ba'atzma. When you talk about the level of the neshama that's a part of the Eibishter from above, if it's a part of the Eibishter, then it doesn't exist for a purpose. It exists for itself. Its purpose is for it itself. And therefore you can't even say that its purpose is for the sake of Avodas Hashem. If that's the case, if ani nevresi l'shamish eskaini only relates to neshamas the way they are in the level of bia, as opposed to neshamas of atzilus, they're not existing for a purpose, not even for the purpose of serving the Eibishter. If that's the case, move on, it's understood. If that's the case, then when we said that there's 7 different categories of neshamas, because depending on the type of aveda that it does, does. It'll be a different category of neshama because ani nefreisi l'shamish skaini, but that's only true up to the level of bia. But in the etzem neshama, the way it is in the level of atzilus, it exists for itself. It doesn't exist for l'shamish skaini, which means the different kind of aveda that this neshama chooses later to do won't have to do with it being a different category of an essential category when dealing with neshamas the way they are in their etzemos, the way they are in atzilus. If that's the case as the Rebbe, then the pasuk makes sense again. This that in the pasuk it said when you elevate, when you light the candles. It said candles, it didn't give a number. We said that the candles of the neshamas also have 7 different categories. This is in order to hint at the fact that the elevation of the neshamas lighting the candles is not only in the level of Bia, the way they come down into Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya, but it's even in the level of Teirai, which is beyond division into different numbers, different categories. Neirei Stam, where it's just candles, it's just Nishamas, it's not 7 candles, it's not 7 categories of Nishamas. We said that where does Aaron have to light the candle? Dafke and the Neshamas, the way they are in Bia, because that's where they forget the Teva Haliyah, the nature they have for Ratzei, the nature they have to be reconnected with the Eibush there. This that we said before in the Maamar, from the Maamar of the Frierdiker Rebbe, that where does Aaron have to rekindle the spark, rekindle the flame, because reintroduce into it the nature of Ratzei and Aliyah that was otherwise concealed, is the Neshamas the Bia, the Kivin Shali, the Yiridas, the Bia, Tever, Ratzei, Veliyah Shalem, Ubal, Lachain Sarach Leider, Galis, Tevaliyah Shalem, because since they came down into Bria, and the nature that they have to be reconnected with the essence of the Eibishter is concealed, and that's why he has to re-elevate the candles. That's why he has to relight them. But according to this, that we said that there's an elevation being achieved even in Neirei Stam, even in Neiris the way they are in Tahirahi, higher than Ata Barasa. That will mean that Aaron is kindling the neshamas of Bia. That's only Haschalas Aliyah. That's only the beginning of the elevation, because if that was all the elevation, then it could have said Ba'alei Sheva Haneros. Why did it say Ba'alei Haneros Stam? To show you that it's going on even the neshamas the way they are in the level of Atzilus, the way they are Be'etzem Mahusam, which is higher than Bia. If that's the case, then the Ba'alei Haneros of the neshamas of Bia is only the beginning of the elevation. But through Aaron's Ba'alei Haneros, Nasas Ba'am Achar Kach Aliyah Nalis Yeser, there's an even higher elevation being achieved, that they're not just reintroducing the Teva Aliyah that was there, that in Atzilus would be clear, so you wouldn't need that Aliyah. They're being elevated even higher. Shemes Alam Lamayla Yesed Kamek Meishahayu Kaidem Yiridasam, they're being elevated to an even higher level than they were before the Yirida. Okay, so nice base. What did we say? That since Ba'alei Haneros it is going on the candles of the menorah, that means that the neshamis are also relate to the candles of the menorah, and that relates to the fact that there's 7 different types of aveda, and ani nevresi l'shamish askaini. So that means 7 different types of aveda means there's 7 different categories of neshamis. If that's the case, why did it say neirei stam? So he said because ani nevresi l'shamish askaini is only from the level of bria and on. But in tahira, he in the neshama, the way he's in atzilus, you can't say that I was created for l'shamish askaini because it's a chelik alakami mal mamish. It exists for its own sake, not for a purpose, not even for Avodas Hashem. If that's the case, why doesn't it say 7 neders? Because it's going even on the level of the neshama, the way it is in Tahirah, the way it is in Etzem Mahusa, which it doesn't exist for a purpose of Avodas Hashem, and therefore isn't divided into a separate category based on its type of Avodas Hashem. If that's the case, that means that Ba'alei Haneros isn't just achieving, like we said before, that it's reintroducing into neshamas of Bia the understanding, the recognition of their hidden nature of Ratzei of Aliyah, but rather it's actually achieving an Aliyah even in neshama the way it is Tahirah. It goes higher than it was before it came down. So what does that mean? So Gimel, Yuvan will understand this Apiteres Rav Magid al Pasuk Ba'aleischa Nedes, based on the teaching of the Rav Magid on the Pasuk of Ba'aleischa, that he says the Nedes Ema Mitzvahs. He says another interpretation in Nedes. Besides that, they go on the Shamis and that they go on Ma'ides Hashamayim, like we said before. They're also the mitzvahs. Kamei Shekasav K'neir Mitzvah, like it says in the Pasuk K'neir Mitzvah V'Teira. Just like you have a candle, and the candle is the vessel for the light, it's what holds the light. Kacha mitzvah, so to a mitzvah. It holds a light. What is the light that it holds? The love and fear for the Eibishter. Upirish ba'aleisches haneros, the pirish es hu gam imhu. If that's the case, what does it mean when you elevate the neros? When you elevate the candles, elevate the candles also means elevate with the candles. But because es also means im. Hu shetales atzmacha im hamitzvah. Says the Magid. That means that you have to elevate yourself together with the mitzvahs. Through the mitzvahs, you elevate yourself as well. Va'aliyah yel mul pnei hamaneda la pnimi. Where are you elevating yourself to? To the face of the Menorah, to the Pnimius. And he compares that, he relates that to what it says about Aseres Adibris al Derech Mashakasav, similar to what it says by Matan Torah. Vaydaber Elikim Kol Advarim Ha'ila Leimer. Anoichi, the Eibishter spoke all of these words, saying Anoichi, that it's explained in Chassidus Shakavana Dechol HaMitzvahs Kol Advarim Ha'ila Leimer. That what is the intent of all of the mitzvahs, of all of these words, all of these things, is Leimer, is to achieve Leimer. What does that mean? Sha'adam Yachshav V'Yomer Anoichi V'Leielecha, that the person should think and say the dibreis anoichi and le'yelecha. Why? Because anoichi v'le'yelecha hainu avi hainu alevav yud rashatevis anoichi v'le'yeh. Because anoichi and le'yeh is rashatevis alevav yud. V'gam rashatevis ava v'yira. But the alevav yud is also the rashatevis of ava and yira, because that relates to anoichi and le'yelecha. Because anoichi is the general of all miramach mitzvah, which is ava, and le'yelecha is the general of all shalei, which is Yira. So the purpose of Vayidaber Elikim Kol Advarim Ha'ila is in order lamer that the person should say Anoichi and Le'yelecha, should recognize the Ava and Yira that he's supposed to have, and that's Al Panai Le'yelecha Le'macherim Al Panai, because Panai is Pirish Pnimius. Panai means Pnimius, and here Pnimius means Sha Pnimius Hu HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Pnimius is the Eibishter himself. So the Magid brings that back to Baha'aleischa, that Baha'aleischa that Ba'aleisches Haneros, you have to elevate yourself with the mitzvahs. Where to the Mul Pnei HaMenorah, to the Pnimius, and Ya'iru Shivas Haneros, and that will cause the 7 candles to shine. That's Shivas Yimei HaBinyan, that's a reference to the 7 Sfiris, Ava Yira Teferes Chulu, that all 7 of the midas will all shine because you reached El Mul Pnei HaMenorah, to the Pnimius. Okay, that's the teaching of the Magid. What does that mean? Says the Rebbe, L'chura Kavana Bazeh, seemingly the intent in this is because we said 2 levels of Pnimius. The Ba'Pnimius, the mitzvah, Shnei Inyanim, there's 2 levels of the Pnimius of the mitzvah. One is Shalidei Kiyam HaMitzvahs Hanera Keli Boim Lav Avira. The first level is, we said that the mitzvah is just a ner, is a keli, is a vessel, and it holds something. What does it hold? It brings us, it elevates us, that as a result of doing mitzvahs, we're able to achieve Ava and Yira for the Eibishter. That's the light that we achieve through the mitzvahs. That's why Anoichi V'Leiyah is Rosh Tevis of Avi, which is also Ava and Yira. The Pnimius Zuik, Haner, that true, this is the Ava and Yira is the Pnimius of the mitzvah. But in this level, the Ava and Yira is Pnimius of the mitzvah, like light is the Pnimius of the candle, and light and the candle, the and the keli, are be'erech one to another. So that means that through the mitzvah, the person achieves the Ava Yira, which is greater than the mitzvah, but within the context of the mitzvah. But then when he said Al Panai, Al Mul Pnei HaMenorah, it means that they're through doing the mitzvah, through achieving the Ava V'Yira that you achieve through the mitzvah. Then there's drawn down an even higher level of Pnimius, which is Al Panai, Amitis, Pnimius, Shu HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the true Pnimius, which is the Eibishter himself. Right? Because so basically it breaks down that there's two levels of pnimius. One is through doing the mitzvah we reach Ava and Yira, and that's the pnimius of the mitzvah. That's like the contained within the keli, within the ner. But then through that we reach Al Mul Pnei Amenera, we reach Al Panai, to the essence of the Eibishter himself. Valpiza Yuvan Gama Kasher Dishnein Yanam de Balais Chasanedis La Pirish the Nedis Eman Shabmes Gili Teva Ratzi Valia Benishamas de Bia Vishal Yidez and Asa by Malia Lamaili Yesen Gama Kamesha Biatzilos Kate Miridas Labia. According to this, we could explain also the two levels of Balais Chasanedis that we said before in the interpretation of Nedis as Nishamis, that over there also we said there's two levels. We said first Balais Chasanedis is that Aaron is revealing within the Nishamis, within Bia, how they truly have a nature of wanting to go up and be elevated and reconnect to their original source. But then we said that that we're saying Nedis Tam, not Sheva Nedis, because we're talking about an aliyah even higher than Bia. That through the aliyah of revealing within them their nature of Ratzai, there's an aliyah that's achieved even higher than they were in Atzilus before they came down, higher than Tahirei. This that the neshama is awakened to have a ratzah, a desire for the Eibishter, which is tremendous level of love beyond comprehension, beyond logic. So even though that itself, awakening it with a ratzah, is already elevating it to the pnimius, to the mul pnei ameneda, but that's darga rishenis to pnimius. But that's still only the first level of pnimius. Dugmas avav yira shrim shach v'yidei mitzvahs, similar to the fact that when you do a mitzvah, you draw down avav yira, and that's already more pnimius than the action of the mitzvah itself. But val yidei zei misalis l'mayli yeser gama k'mei sabat sidlos dargashniya depnimius al panai. But then, as a result of that ratzai, it's not only brought to the pnimius of the mitzvah. It's not only bringing about an elevation of the neshama the way it is in a bia, but it's actually elevated to even higher than the way it was in atzilus, that neirei stam, and that's like the second level of pnimius al panai, to the pnimius of the Eibishter, to atzmos, the essence of the Eibishter himself. Okay, so in this Eis Gimel, he related this to the teaching of Magid Ba'aleis Chesaneres, that Neres mitzvah, that through doing a mitzvah we reach Pnimius, that's the Ava V'yira, but then El Mul Pnei Al Panai, and similarly El Mul Pnei Amenera, not only do you reach the Pnimius, the Ava Yira, which is the Pnimius, like an is the Pnimius of the Keli, but it relates to the Keli, you also reach Al Panai, you reach the deeper level of pnimius, which is the essence of the Eibishter himself. So similarly, in the neshamis, first there's Ba'aleis Chesaneres, that Aaron is revealing in the neshamis the way they are in Bia, how really they have the teva, ratzei, and aliyah that they had beforehand, that allows them to reach beyond Bia, to reach back to the way they are in Atzilus. But then there's the fact that it's Ba'aleis Chesaneres, Neres Tam, that we don't call it seven Neres, because there's an aliyah happening that's even higher than the way the neshama was in Atzilus, and that's the second level of pnimius al panai, to the essence of the Eibishter himself. So what does that mean? What does it mean that there's two different levels of pnimius? And first the neshama is being elevated to one, but then it's being elevated to something even higher. Because you might think that the neshama, the way it is in Atzilus, is essence, is etzem hanefesh. But the truth is that the neshama, even the way it is above, even the way it is in Atzilus, is already like the sun, the way he's drawn from the mayach ha'av, the way he's drawn down from the Father's brain. But if you get all the way back to Etzem and Neshama, the way it's rooted in Atzmus itself, that's that's like the son, the way he is in the Father's brain itself, before he was ever drawn down in the first place. And that is Eina Begeder Hamshacha V'Gilui. That's not in a whole concept of being drawn down of revelation altogether. So therefore, conceptually speaking, the Etzem Neshama isn't shaykh to Gili. Not only is it not Nisgala, but it's not shaykh to Gili. But when the Neshama comes down here, and it does its to awaken, to reveal the nature that it has to be drawn to higher, to be elevated. The Ben Alaviv, continuing in the mashal of a father and a child, that's like the nature that the child misses the father. So when the son misses the father, it's not just reverting to the level of the way it was when it was next to the father. It's revealing why does it miss its father, because it's rooted in its father. In other words, it's revealing the essence of the soul, the way it's mushrish in the essence of the father himself, beyond the whole concept of Gilui and Amshacha. When you talk about the level of neshama, the way it is, like the son that's drawn from the Mayacha'av, the way Hayirida Libiyah, that it's able to come down, it's able to be nimshach, to be drawn down here. Then Hayirida Libiyah, the level of connection that the neshama feels, even the neshama the way it is Lamaila, but it's already the way the child was drawn from the father, that means it's separate from the father. And once it's separate from the father, then when it descends into Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya, how much more so when it descends into Elam Hazagashmi, that the concealment of the world is able to conceal on its connection with its father. As we know that only neshamas of Atzilus are called banim, because the way the neshama comes down here, the bia is able to be mailim, Elam Hazeh is able to be mailim, it's able to conceal, and therefore it loses that sense of connection to the father. The fact that even when it comes down here, it's still openly a son, even though it's no longer a neshama the way it is in Atzilus, and the Yerida isn't able to cause a helam, it isn't able to conceal on its connection. That even when it's down here, it still has that desire to go and ascend above, like a child who misses his parents. Well, that can't happen through the level of the neshama, the way it is already descended from the brain of the father, because then it wouldn't be able to remain a ben once it descends, once it's concealed, once it loses that sense of Ratzein Aliyah. And the fact that it is able to have the teva of Ratzein Aliyah, even the way it is in Bia, it's still able to miss its father, even the way it is here in this world. Is it revealing the essence of the soul, the way it was never drawn, it was never expressed, it never left the father in the first place. It's still in the brain of the father. That's how it's able to feel a gaguim, to feel that it misses the father, to feel a ratzai, even the way it is down here in this world, because the way it is mushrish and atzmos, the way it never separated itself from the father in the first place. There's no difference between Atzilus and Bia. And therefore, even the way it descends into this world, it still misses its father. It still has a nature to have a ratzeh, a desire to return and to revert to its original source. Based on this understanding of the advantage of the neshama the way it is lamata, and how it's able to reach higher even than the neshama and Atzilus. It's able to reach to that of neshama the way it's mushish and atzmos. Based on this, we could explain what it says in Likutei Torah. The pasuk says in Zechariah that he sees a prophecy. He sees a golden menorah, and then it goes on to say Zedvar Hashem al Zerubbabel, that the golden menorah relates to the word of Hashem to Zerubbabel. What's the connection? The Dvar Hashem because the word of Hashem is a reference, the source of all Yiddish neshamas, all Jewish souls. What does it mean when it says the word of Hashem to Zerubbabel? Because Dvar Hashem, the source of Nishmas Yisrael, is expressed specifically in Zerubbabel. In the Yidden, the way they were in the time of Galus, which is called Zerubbabel, Hashem v'zarati hali ba'aretz, all planted in the land. Zerubbabel, Melashin Zarua b'Bavel. Zerubbabel means planted in Bavel. V'zui ha'shaychus Menorah Zav im Dvar Hashem al Zerubbabel ki klalos nishmas Yisrael nikra Menorah. That's the connection of Menorah Zav with the Dvar Hashem al Zerubbabel. The golden Menorah is the Nishmas Yisrael, and Nishmas Yisrael expresses the Dvar Hashem, expresses the original root and source of Yidden. How in Zerubbabel, in the way the Neshamas come down into Galus specifically. Theoretically, it's not understood. I understand that the Menorah is the Jewish Neshamas, but what is it connected specifically to the way they are in Galus? But you could explain. Why is the descent into Galus called planting? Because the whole intent of the descent into Galus is that it's for the sake of an elevation. Just like planting in the earth. Then why do you plant in the earth? For the sake of growth. And you're not just for the sake of growth, but for the sake of incredible growth. The klum adam zeirei saw, like it says in the Gemara, would a person plant a saw of grain unless he expects to bring in several kurin? A kurin is 30 saw. In other words, he wants to bring in many, many, many times the amount that he planted. So that's why Galus is called Zerubbabel. It's planting, because it's planting is for the sake of an elevation. Yes, it's descent, but it's for the sake of the growth and much greater growth that it'll achieve. That's the connection of the golden Menorah with Zerubbabel. Because this idea of elevating the candles, revealing the essence of the soul that's beyond even the neshama, the way it was in Atzilus. Where is this achieved? Primarily through the Aveda in the time of Galus. This that we said before, that the revelation of the Etzem Neshama is dafka through the Aveda, the way it comes down into the physical world, into Eilam Hazeh. Hu b'chlolos, that's only in general that in Eilam Hazeh we're able to achieve that higher level, that Etzem Neshama. But the main gilui, the main revelation, is primarily in the Aveda of Yidden, dafka the way they are, specifically when we come down into Galus. That's why Yidden here are called Zerubbabel, because they were planted in Bavel, the first Galus of the four Galias. It's in order to hint not only even when we're in Galus, we're still the Menorah, we're still the source of light, we're still part of the Eibishter. Even when we sleep in Galus, my heart is still awake. It's actually telling us something much more than that. That actually Zerubbabel descending into Galus is planting that brings about a much greater growth, and that's by the neshamas coming down into Bia. They're elevated, and not only are they elevated back to where they were in their source, to Heirai, but they're elevated to the Etzem and Neshama, the way it's Mushrish and Atzmos, to the essence of the soul, the way it is way higher even than the way it was in Atzilus. Okay, so the Kitzer Eis Dalet explained what we said in Eis Gimel. In Eis Gimel, we said that through the neshamas of Bia being awakened to seek their pnimius, to seek Al Mul Pnei HaMenorah, to be elevated back to their source, they ultimately achieve an even higher elevation of the second level of pnimius, of Al Panai, of going back to the essence of the Eibishter himself. We explained what that means in Eis Dalet, that the neshama, that the neshama, even the way it is above, is the neshama the way it's nimshach from the mayachav. But the etzem and neshama, the way it's mushish and atzmos, is higher even than that. But dafka through the way we are down here, and dafka specifically in Golos, it's planting in order to achieve. And when we miss the Eibishter and reveal the teva of Ratzei down here, then we achieve an elevation up, not just back to our source, not just to have the Ratzei to go back to our makar, but actually to this reveals the way the essence of the soul is mushrish and the essence of the Eibishter himself. Hey, vihine, k'may shala pirish the balei schas haneros kail neshamas. Ikar aliyah shalem ogili shirashim k'may she'emor shirashos ba'atzmos. Now he goes further and says, just like according to this interpretation of balei schas haneros, that it's going on the neshamas. We said the main elevation is revealing their original source, the way we're rooted in atzmos and the essence of Hashem Himself. Al derech zo gam la pirish the balei schas haneros kail mitzvahs. This same idea is true also in the Maggid's interpretation. That Ba'alotcha Haneros isn't going on the neshamas, but it's going on the mitzvahs. That we said that there's two levels of aliyah, there's two levels of pnimius. That first Ba'alotcha Haneros we're elevated through the mitzvahs to the level of pnimius, to the avav yira that's contained in the mitzvahs, and then we said that there's a higher level of pnimius, that it's al panai, that we're elevated to the essence of the Eibishter himself. So this idea that we said by the neshamas, that the higher level of elevation is that it's revealed in them, how they're mosherish in atzmos, how they're rooted in atzmos. This is true in the Maggid's interpretation also, that Ba'alotcha Haneros is going on the mitzvahs. Why? The zesh is bar li'il shalidei kiyama mitzvahs ba'im la'ava v'yira. This that was explained earlier, that through fulfilling mitzvahs we come to ava and yira. Hainu sham mitzvahs em lamayla ma'adam amakaymam v'hei mashpiyim b'yish yavi la'ava v'yira. Right? If a person is achieving ava v'yira through the mitzvahs, that means the pnimius of the mitzvahs, that means that the mitzvahs are higher than the person, and Ba'alotcha Haneros, you go up with the mitzvahs, that the mitzvahs are higher than us, and they affect us, that we're elevated, that we're able to achieve ava and yira. Which means Ava v'yira shalamayla matam v'das she'im b'yicholti lagia aleim al yidei aveda es beinenos v'nimshachim amayla yidei mitzvahs. Right? That there's a higher level of Ava v'yira, like we said before. The Ava v'yira that's based on tam v'das, that's based on logic and understanding, the person could achieve through his own aveda, through his beinenos. But then there's a higher level of Ava v'yira that's beyond tam v'das, and a person can't reach this through his own aveda. How do we reach it? Through the mitzvahs. But according to what we said now, that's hu b'tchilas aveda. That's only the beginning of the aveda. That's only the first step. That the mitzvahs are higher than the person, and they're bringing us to an ava v'yira that we otherwise wouldn't have reached on our own. But after you achieve this level of ava and yira, which is darga rishena the pnei pnimius hamaneda, like we said before in the Pirush of the Maggid, the first level of pnei hamaneda, the first level of pnimius, which is the ava v'yira, is the pnimius of the mitzvah. Then misgalabay. Then you reach an even higher level, which is the root of the neshama, the way it's rooted in atzmos and the essence of the Eibishter himself. That's the darga shniya de pnei hamaneda b'chinas al panei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's, like we said before, the second level of pnei hamaneda, which is the al panei liyilach alei machirim al panei. That's the Eibishter himself. Ve'inyan zehu mamshech gam ba'mitzvahs. And in this level, the mitzvahs are no longer higher than the person, and they're bringing the person higher. On the contrary, the mitzvahs first are higher than the person, and they bring the person higher to Ava v'yira. But once the person reaches this level of Ava Yira, then it's revealed in him the way he's Mushrish and Atzmos. And once you reveal in the person the way he's Mushrish and Atzmos, then he's drawing that level of Atzmos into the mitzvahs themselves. Kamay Mirazal on the Pasuk Magid Var Yaakov Chum Shvat Yisrael, like Chazal tell us. On the Pasuk, the Eibishter tells his words to Yaakov, his statutes, his laws to the Yidden, that Mashu Huayim Yisrael Lasis, that what the Eibishter does, he tells the Yidden to do. V'yodua pirish b'zesach Sidis explains in that al yidei Yisrael leisem kaimim some mitzvahs al yidei zegarmim shakadosh baruch hu yasim mitzvahs, that through the Yidden doing the mitzvahs, we are the ones who cause, like it says in the Bar Mitzvah Maamar, we are the ones who cause that the Eibishter should do these same mitzvahs. V'alderech hayodua b'negei l'Torah, like it says, like it's known also about Torah, like we learned about in the Maamar Pasach Rabbi Shimon, the l'achrish Yisrael miskashem be'iraisa v'al yada b'kudsha b'richu, that once the Yidden connected to the Torah, and through the Torah, first the Torah is what connects the Yidden to the Eibishter, but then is Misgala Shedish to Yisrael Shalamayla Shedish to the Torah, but then through the Torah, there's revealed the source of the Yidden, the way they are higher than the source of Torah, the way that Ulachrish Misgala Shedish to Yisrael Batzmus Yisbarach, and once we reveal that, the source of the Yid, the root of the Yid, the way we're rooted in Atzmos, hey Mamshichem Zegam B'Torah, now the Torah is no longer what's connected the Yid to the the Eibishter, but verkehrt. The Yid is the one who's connecting the Torah to the Eibishter, because we're drawing down the Atzmus of that's expressed in the Yid that's higher even than the Shadish of Torah. Like it says that David was connecting the Torah the way it is above to the Eibishter. Okay, so according to that, after the first level of Pnimius, the Ava V'yira that's revealed in through the mitzvahs, there's a higher level of Pnimius. The Yid we reveal in the Yid, the mitzvah reveals in the Yid the way the Yid is mushrish and atzmos, and that's higher than the mitzvah itself. And then the Yid reaches the atzmos and brings that into the mitzvahs. And you could say it's the Pirish Ba'aleisches Haneros U'imaneres Ba'aleisches Atzmocha Ima Mitzvahs. According to this, you could explain even deeper what the Maggid said, that Ba'aleisches Haneros is when you're elevated with the Neres, with the mitzvahs. You're elevating yourself with the mitzvahs. That before we thought that means that the person is being elevated through the level of the mitzvahs, but he says elevated with the mitzvahs. That means the mitzvahs are also being elevated. Shakavana bazehi, that the deeper meaning of that is sha'adam mailes hamitzvos lamakim shuatzma elilasham. You are elevated with the mitzvahs. In other words, you're elevating the mitzvahs too, because you're bringing the mitzvahs up to the places where you're being elevated to, which is the darga shniya de pnei ameneda b'chinas al panei, the second level of pnei ameneda, the level of al panei, the pnimius of atzmas, of the essence of the Eibishter himself. Okay, so just like we said in the last days, that Ba'aleisches Haneros, if it's going on the Neshamis, there's two levels of the Aliyah. First, the Aliyah of revealing the Tava Ratzai, so they're being elevated from Bia to the way of Tahirai to Atzilus. But then there's an even higher level, which is Ba'aleisches Haneros, we're being elevated higher than Tahirai, to the level of through the Yirida into Elam Hazeh, and even more into Golos. We're revealing in the Neshama the way it's Mushish and Atzmos, and therefore elevating the neshama even higher than it was in its source of Tahirai. The same is true if Ba'aleisches Haneros goes on the mitzvahs, that first the mitzvahs elevate the person, the mitzvah is higher than the person, and brings the person to a level of Ava and Yira that he couldn't have achieved on his own. But then that reveals in the Yid the way he's mushrish and atzmos, and then the person brings the mitzvah to a level of atzmos much higher than it ever contained on its own, and as Ratzon Hashem. Just like by Torah, that through the Torah connecting the Yid to the Eibishter, then the Yid connects the Torah to the Eibishter, to the atzmos, to the shadish of Yidden, the way they're mushish and atzmos. And that's Ba'aleisches Haneros, when you're elevated with the mitzvahs, because not only is the mitzvahs elevating the person, but ultimately then you're elevating the person as elevating the mitzvahs to the level that only the person could reach. And you could add to Kamoshel if he pashtas hakasav, just like in the simple meaning of the pasuk. El mul pnei ameneda nimshach liyiru shivas haneros. The mul pnei ameneda, the panimius, is then drawn into shining the seven candles, all seven. Al derech zo b'panimius inyanim. The same will be true in the panimiistic meaning. The mul pnei ameneda shekael b'chinas al panei that we explained. The mul pnei ameneda goes on the panimius, on the essence of the Eibishter himself. But behem shechneis of Ba'aleisches Haneros isn't just going on Ba'aleisches Haneros, like we said that it's Neres Stam, that you're being elevated to a level higher than the seven midas, higher than the different levels of Avedas Hashem, because the neshama is being elevated higher than just to the source of the neshama, but rather to the way the neshama is, the way it's Moshe and Atzmos. But this goes El Mul Pnei Ameneda, then goes not only on that part of the pasuk, but also on the second half of the pasuk, on the Yi'ir Shivas Haneros, where it is referring to it as seven candles. Why? Like we explained before, Shivas Haneros is going on this on the Ma'eres, that a Yid is adding into the sources of light, into the luminaries in the heavens, like Sarah added light. But according to this, the simple meaning of that would be just that we're we're filling that which was lacking, that happened by the diminishing of the moon, that now they're missing something and we're elevating them back to the level of shleimus. But according to this, but according to what we said, means that we're bringing an elevation even higher than the level they were when they were Shnei HaMeiros HaGedolim before the Miyat HaLevana. Even though we say that the world was created in its fullness, meaning in its perfected state, so therefore theoretically, how could you go higher than perfection? Nonetheless, through the Aved of the person, there's an elevation. We elevate the world even higher than it was even at the beginning of its creation. Because if we're able to elevate through Aveda, even the mitzvah, to a level higher than the mitzvah is in Ratzon Hashem, and if we're able to elevate the neshama to a level higher even than Tahira, higher than the way it is in Atzilus, certainly we can elevate the world to higher than it was in its perfected state. And what is that elevation? Just like in the neshama and just like in the mitzvah, it's that the world becomes a dira le'yizbarach, it becomes a dira for Atzmos. We reveal in it and connect it to Atzmos itself. The Rabbi concludes in Isaiah through the Aveda and all of these aspects that we talked about, that we're elevating the neshamis and we're elevating the mitzvahs and we're elevating the ma'ires, the world itself. And through all of this Aveda, we bring closer and speed up the promise. The Laila kayem yard, that the night will shine like the day. As will happen by the Gula Mitzvah Shleima, V'gam Lifnei Zeh, and even beforehand, B'yamim Achreinim D'Cheshach HaGolus, even in the last days of the darkness of Golus, Yeh L'cho B'nei Yisrael L'er B'mei Shvesim, will already be light for all of the Yidden everywhere they are. Al Yidei Shekol Echad Yosef Er V'chayis V'avidaseh. How will we bring about that light? Through each one of us adding light, adding Er and Chayis in their Aveda. V'zeh Yimar Eid Yosef Kima Yu'ut D'Valayla Kayem Ya'ir. That will speed up even more so the fulfillment of the promise of Laila Kayem Yard, that the night will shine like the day. B'bias Mashiach Tzidkenu, with the coming of Mashiach, Yahweh v'Yigaleinu v'Yedichenu K'mias L'Artzeinu, will come redeem us, bring us upright to our land. She'oz ti Aliyah Ba'aleischa v'Chol Einyanim B'Tachlis Hashleimus, that then we'll have the elevation, we'll have the Ba'aleischa in all aspects in its ultimate perfection. B'Pnimius and v'Chitzenius Kam Yochad, both in the Pnimius and the Chitzenius, both in all of the different levels. Okay, so Gitzer, we answered the question of why it starts off with Neiris Tam, why then it says Shiva Saneiris, why it says Shiva, not 6, what it means that the Neshamas are being elevated. The Neshamas are being elevated, first of all, the way they are in Bia, then the Neshamas are being elevated even the way they are beyond Shiva Saneiris, beyond the division into separate categories. The Mitzvahs are being elevated the way they are Neir Mitzvah, that we're revealing the Pnimius of the Mitzvah, the Avev Yira. Then the Mitzvahs are being elevated even higher than that, to the Alponai, to the essence of the Eibishter himself. Which has happened specifically through Zerubbabel, through the way we are in Bia, and in Olam Hazeh Tachten, and in Golos specifically, because the fact that we're still able to miss our Father, even in Golos, the fact that we're still able to have a Ratzai, even in Golos, isn't an expression of the Neshama the way it's Nimshach from Mayachav, because over there it would be affected, it would be concealed. The fact that we still have this feeling of desire, wanting to connect, to connect to our Father, is an expression of the way we're mushrish in Atzmos Av before we're Nimshach from Mayachav, and therefore it's the level of the Yid, the way he is mushrish in Atzmos, and that all will be expressed, and may it be expressed, take of Miyad Mamish, by the Gula Amitis Vashlema.